Let me tell you about my aunt. She doesn't have a financial advisor. She doesn't have a stock portfolio. She has never once used the word diversification in a sentence. But she owns more gold than most people will ever see in their lifetime. It's not in a bank vault. It's not in a safety deposit box. It's in a small locked drawer in her bedroom, wrapped in a red cloth, next to a bottle of Tiger Balm and some expired vitamins. Guarded by nothing but the weight of family expectation and the knowledge that touching it without permission would result in consequences worse than any financial penalty you can imagine. This is the Asian gold system, and today we're going to talk about why it exists, how it works, and why statistically, culturally, historically, Asian households hold more gold per capita than almost anywhere else on Earth. The numbers don't lie. Let's start with some numbers, because the scale of this is genuinely staggering. India alone accounts for roughly 25% of global gold demand. China regularly ranks among the top 2 gold-consuming nations on Earth: Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, all consistently in the top tier of gold ownership per household. When you add it all up, Asian households collectively hold an estimated 50% or more of all privately owned gold in the world. Meanwhile, in Western Europe, the average household's relationship with gold begins and ends with a wedding ring and maybe a watch that gets passed down once and then immediately sold on eBay by the grandchildren who need the money for rent. The difference is not income, it is not access. It is a mindset that was built over thousands of years and has survived every economic crisis, every currency collapse, every government that ever tried to tell people their paper money was just as good. Spoiler, it never is. The monthly system, here's something most people outside Asian cultures don't realize. Buying gold is not a special occasion thing. It is a recurring habit, a discipline, almost a subscription service, except the asset actually holds its value. In many Asian households, particularly in Vietnam, India, and China, buying a small amount of gold every month is as normal as paying a utility bill. Not a lot. Maybe just a small coin, a thin bracelet, a fraction of a tael, but consistent, every month without fail. The logic is simple, and it has been proven correct over and over again. Currencies fluctuate, banks fail, governments print money, inflation eats savings, but gold, over a long enough timeline, holds its purchasing power. Your great-grandmother's gold bracelet bought in 1965 is worth significantly more today than the cash equivalent would have been had it sat in a savings account for 60 years. Try explaining this to a European and they'll nod politely and then go put their money in a savings account earning 0.5% interest and feel very responsible about it. The Lunar New Year effect. And then there are the holidays. If you think regular monthly gold buying is impressive, wait until you see what happens during Lunar New Year, Diwali, Dussehra, or any major celebration on the Asian cultural calendar. Gold shops prepare for this the way a stadium prepares for a championship game. Extra staff, extended hours, special collections, lines out the door, not because gold is on sale, it rarely is, but because the cultural pull toward buying gold during auspicious times is so strong that it has literally moved global commodity prices for centuries. In Vietnam, there's an entire concept called Ten Thai, the god of wealth. And on his feast day in early spring, millions of Vietnamese people line up at gold shops before dawn to buy at least a small piece of gold. The lines start at 4 a.m. People have been known to wait 3 hours for gold before breakfast. Meanwhile, European holiday shopping peaks at the scented candle section of a department store. The wedding gold, nothing in the Asian gold system hits quite like a wedding. When an Asian child gets married, the family does not simply give a card with a cash gift and call it a day. That would be efficient. That would be easy. That is not what happens. What happens is years, sometimes decades, of accumulated gold jewelry gets transferred from one generation to the next in a ceremony that is simultaneously a financial transaction, a family blessing, a status display, and an emotional moment all at once. The mother drapes a gold necklace around her daughter-in-law's neck. The grandmother produces a bracelet she has been holding since 1987 specifically for this moment. The aunts arrive with earrings. The other aunts arrive with more earrings. Someone's great aunt who traveled 12 hours by bus produces a small wrapped package that turns out to be a gold bangle that has been in the family for 40 years. By the end of the wedding day, the bride may be wearing the equivalent of a significant down payment on a house, not rented, not borrowed, hers forever. A physical transfer of generational wealth worn on the body in front of everyone. So there is no question that it happened. Compare this to a European wedding where the financial highlight is an envelope with a gift card to a home furnishing store and the promise to finally get around to buying you something off the registry. Gold as a language, here's what Western financial systems consistently fail to understand about Asian gold culture. It is not just an investment, it is a language. When a Vietnamese mother slips a gold ring onto her daughter's finger before she leaves for university, she is not saying this is worth approximately X amount of dollars. She is saying, no matter what happens to the economy, no matter what job you get or don't get, no matter how hard things become, you will always have this. You will never be completely without resources. I am handing you a piece of security that no bank can freeze and no government can easily take. That is a very different conversation than opening a savings account together at the local branch. Gold in Asian culture is portable wealth, emergency insurance, generational inheritance, and love letter all in one small object that fits in your pocket. The storage question. Now, if you're wondering where all this gold actually goes, the answer is everywhere and nowhere obvious. It does not go into bank vaults. It does not go into formal storage facilities with monthly fees and complicated paperwork. It goes into bedrooms, into kitchen drawers, into small boxes wrapped in cloth, into compartments and wardrobes that only the mother knows about. There is an entire generation of Asian children who grew up knowing vaguely that somewhere in the house there was gold, but not knowing exactly where, because that information was on a need-to-know basis, and apparently they did not yet need to know. This drives Western financial advisors absolutely insane. Untracked assets, they say no paper trail, they worry. Completely illiquid in an emergency, they warn. To which the Asian grandmother replies by producing exactly the right amount of gold at exactly the right moment, as she has done every time there has ever been an emergency for the last 50 years, without a single spreadsheet. So why do Asians own more gold than anyone else on the planet? Because they learned generations ago that paper promises are exactly that. Promises, and promises, unlike gold, can be broken. Every monthly purchase, every Lunar New Year bracelet, every wedding necklace passed down with two hands and a look that says take care of this is a vote of no confidence in systems that have historically let people down, and a vote of confidence in something that has held its value for 5,000 years. Is it the most sophisticated financial strategy in the world? Maybe not. Will the gold hidden in the bedroom drawer eventually become a logistics problem for the next generation? Almost certainly. But when the economy wobbles, when currencies shake, when banks do what banks sometimes do, the grandmother with the locked drawer sleeps very well. Drop a comment if your family has gold somewhere in the house that you're not entirely sure where it is. I think we all know someone with a very specific drawer. Thanks for watching Like an Asian. See you next time.